top of the table.
PO Auto Ceramic Speed win, so 2 wins from 2. What a performance by Kirkmare as well. Superb ride by Canyon Esports to round out the podium. That was breathless stuff. Well, without a shadow of a doubt, that was an absolute thriller of a team time trial, and ever so close as well. Just shows the exceptionally high standard that we have here on Season 2 of the ZRL. 26 seconds separated the top 10 teams, but it was PO Auto Ceramic Speed who made it 2 from 2 and now lead the standings. As you can see there, 40 points. Canyon Esports in second, again, ever consistent Canyon Esports with 36 points. Saris and the Pros Closet never too far behind with third. Dutch Racing, already winner of an individual round, remember, over in America in Richmond. They're in fourth. Legion of Los Angeles had a very, very good team time trial. They're in fifth. And I think the surprise of last week was the Kirkmare e-racing team moving up from the community leagues. They're currently at 6th overall. 7th are Insured, powered by Pedal Power. Then we have the World Elite Zwifters, or WES, holding on to 8th in equal points with the Callas Esports racing team. And rounding out the top 10 with still 8 rounds to go are Restart Racing. Well, that's the results as we head into this particular course. Now, Dave, let's bring you back in, Dave, because this is a cracker. This is going to be a tough day today on the Innsbruck KOM after party.
Yeah. 3 laps, including the leg snapper 3 times, will certainly soften up or tenderize the field before we get down to the matter at hand. That's going to be a brutal climb. As a matter of fact, history will be made today. As you can see, they start and climb to the finish line. That will be the toughest finale, the hardest climb that we've ever had in the Zwift Racing League up to this point. It's a brutal course out there today, Matt.
It certainly is. As you can see, 417 metres of elevation. Now, we know that the riders are in the grids at the moment. Let's have a quick look at the teams. Dave, if you can quickly run through the top 3 picks for you here.
Well, you can't look past PO Auto Ceramic Speed. This team is phenomenal. They are on a roll right now. Same thing could be said for Canyon, last season's champions. You start to look then, so Anders Voldegger, he was a medalist at the World Championships just a little over a month ago. Absolutely, he's a danger man, but nobody who puts up the numbers. If you just go on data, 6.1 watts per kilo is the 20-minute power for Lionel Viasen of the Canyon team. One of the most well-known riders in esports as well. Absolutely a rider to watch. But then if you want to go for an outlier here, Hidenori Sasaki. He's on the Zwift Warrior cycling team out of Japan. This 52 kilo wattage cottage is going to be in the mix. I have a feeling they might get their best result ever today, Matt. I was also thinking about Nikki Hug of the Swiss rider on the Bolt team. What do you think? Who am I missing there, Matt?
Well, I tell you what, I'm going to hold that thought for a moment. We're going to head straight to the pens, just see the riders out in this very important early start of the race, and I'll answer that question for you, Dave. I've got a little Irishman in my back pocket, as it were. First up, there you go, some great picture-in-picture action here. These are the riders, of course, there. I think they have actually just left the grid. Always so interesting to see the pain caves of all of these lads out in the race today. And they're off. They are off pretty well. A very quick start indeed. It's always nice to see this early start, Dave, because, you know, without a shadow of a doubt, as we know so well, the first part of a Zwift race, although these riders are getting very used to it, is intense. Some big power numbers being put out straight away. 5 watts a kilo, pretty ordinary, isn't it, as we get out 1k down. But to answer your question, Dave, I'm going to go for Chris McGlinchey. He's proved himself in flat finishes, but importantly, he's proved himself on hilly courses as well. Finished, I think it was second to none other than Tom Pidcock on this very course a couple of months back in one of the Zwift Classics. And also, remember, has won on the Bologna course as well. And there is the team of Vitus Esports. And there is a smiling Chris McGlinchey along with his teammates, Chris Aston, Matteo Aguilaga and Adam Kenway. So that's my tip, Dave.
Yeah, they certainly came out of the woodwork, that's for sure. When you look at it, this course, the sting is in the tail, Matt, and the Tyrolean scorpion, I would call it, because you do have to get through this gauntlet, though. That is when you look at leg snapper, it's 430 meters. That's almost nothing for elite level esports riders. At 6.9%, however, it's enough that it should sort things out. So there's going to be some riders up against it. I was thinking, the term sag climbing, get to the front, and hopefully you're still in the group by the time it goes over the crest and you start heading down. Sag climbing is not part of this conversation because, Matt, let's be honest. If you're having to sag climb the leg snapper, what kind of a chance do you think you have on the KOM after party, right? That is the most significant climb that we've ever seen in the ZRL. So if you can't get through the leg snapper 3 times, there's no reason to apply for a job at the office.
No, definitely. It's I think the leg snapper, I think we see a few teams just making that leg snapper hard as well. It's only around 30-35 seconds of effort for riders of this level. I think it takes myself about 45 seconds to get up it, and that's full gas. But it's enough to start to sap the rider. So essentially, although this downtown course is called the Innsbruck Ring Circuit, this little crypt type of circuit is essentially flat, not much elevation at all. That leg snapper could prove crucial, especially in the early stages. But as you said, Dave, it's a real climber's course, isn't it? There's no real hiding place at all. There are some flatter sections on the climb, but it is a tough one, with the vast majority at their elevation towards the back end. And here are the team, 2 from 2, PO Auto Ceramic Speed, Anders Foldager, of course, a medalist in the Worlds recently, Joachim Lissen, Mikael Knudsen, Fredrik Muff Hansen, again, a very, very fast finisher indeed, and then Nicholas Pedersen. That is such a good squad, and they performed so well as a tight-knit unit last week as well, Dave. Very, very impressive performance.
It's going to be a hard team to beat, to tell you the truth. Canyon has been stalking them, sitting in second now. Right at this point, they're looking to make a move. It'll be interesting to see. Is our winner going to finish alone today, Matt? I think so. I think most people think so. But getting those riders up in the top 10, that's always critical. But the real story here, and I have to give Charlie credit, Charlie, who works with Zwift and helps sort out what course we're going to be racing on. When you look at this one, Matt, there's 2 games to play here because there are a lot of bonus points. We've talked about, so through the 37.2 kilometers of racing that they have here, there are a tremendous number of points that you can gain along the way. We've got our fastest across the line and our segments out here to look at. And these points, they all add up. And to tell you the truth, that's one of the big changes that was made from Season 1 into Season 2, was making this part of the race much more important now. And we're going to see these points being distributed in a few kilometers here for the first time. We scored these sprints 5 deep, starting with 5 for the first rider over the line, down to 1 for the 5th.
Yep, it's crucial that these riders get involved in these the sprints. It's when they go through the finish line, that long straight finish as they swing right over the rim. It's a flat finish. It's about 1,500 meters from when they turn right, but it won't be long before we hit the leg snapper there. Really ricocheting, rocketing around this course. 4.2 kilometers already under the wheels, and you can see the riders already jostling for position. As isn't really too much of a surprise, because although I don't think we'll see riders kind of sandbagging on this climb, you can't afford to be near the back either, Dave. So I think you will see genuine jostling for position for riders to try and save it. Even if it's just a small amount of energy on this climb, we will see it string out on here without a shadow of a doubt. It is the most significant part of this downtown part of the circuit.
Yeah, it is amazing how the positioning matters so much here, Matt. And I think a big part of that is that there's going to get a split will happen over the leg snapper the first time. You don't want to get caught behind riders and let gaps open up here and have to burn a match early in this race. Again, it's completely flat. It's hard to imagine. Innsbruck, a city of 300,000 folks, as we were talking about before the show. It's not a small town, but it certainly has that beautiful mix of being in the Alps. But the whole race is going to come down to, it kind of flips the script, to tell you the truth. Is almost always, it seems like the story is who's the best sprinter left in the final group going to the line. Well, that's not going to be the case out here at all. It's going to be really who's the climber that can ride them off his wheels, or her wheels, coming up a little bit later.
No, definitely. We'll look at some of the power that's been dropped. Look at the numbers on the right-hand side there. 9 watts a kilo, just saw 11, 12 watts a kilo. Vujasan, again, a rider making sure that he's at or near the head of affairs, just dropping a little featherweight power up there. There he is, out of the saddle. Again, that low cadence, high torque kind of style of his, really, really effective. making sure he doesn't miss any of these splits. No points on offer over the top of this climb, remember. It's only through the finish line that there are sprint points on offer for the first 5, as has been described by Dave already. But Vujasan allowing himself just a little bit of a rest there as well. One of these very small opportunities on this course day for a micro rest is just that little crest, isn't it? Back off just for a few seconds, let the lactic disperse, and then you're on the power again.
Yeah, just put a little bit of a charge on that battery, as you know it's going to be zeroed out by the time you hit the top of the final climb out here today. So, Matt, would you, if you were a director, I guess it would depend on the talent that you're working with on your squad, would you look at using a rider or two to go, because ultimately it's going to come down to every man for himself. I mean, by the time you get to that bottom of the KOM after party, there's not much a teammate can do for you. Would you use teammates to try to snatch some early points early here?
Yeah, I would. I'd be definitely looking at the composition of the team, looking at, I mean, because it's like a bit of a football match, this particular race. It is going to be, it's a cliche, Dave, but it is a game of two halves. We're just heading towards the sprint point here. A few power-ups being used now. It is Kanjai Abeki of the Zwift Warrior cycling team who's just out in front at the moment. Abeki surging clear. Use that power-up. It's Rijkaard who just goes past Ingo Rijkaard of the Kirkmare e-racing team. Just coming up to the line here, but Rijkaard got a nice little lead, and it's Victor Mel just coming down the outside, the Norwegian Zwift champion. Oh, it's going to be very, very tight indeed. Carroll, I think, just overtook him on the line there. Let's just get confirmation of that, but it was Joel Carroll of the Finesse Rockets, another one of the teams that has moved up through the rankings here. Carroll from Mel, from Glendes, Segerbrook there as well from Canyon, and then Steinman in 5th. Well, that was a breathless sprint so early on. But again, just to answer your question, Dave, I would be using some riders who I don't think compete well on the climb. Use them up early on, get some points in the bag, let the other riders rest up and save themselves for the climb. That's the answer.
Yeah, and I think they're making that pretty clear right now. That was an aggressive, hard-fought sprint there. Spencer Segerbrook moving up now. Certainly a rider to watch here as we're in Innsbruck here. We get a good look at Spencer there in his pain cave. Yeah, they're getting after it, man. I mean, that heart rate already up at 173 beats per minute, and we are just coming up on 10 minutes into this race. So they're going to make it a very, very hard journey to the bottom of that climb.
Yeah, definitely. And of course, the use of power-ups. Of course, every time they go through the finish arch and one of the sprint arches, there is the power-up opportunity. And just a reminder, though, which is a bit of a twist. Normally in Zwift racing, or Zwift racing, we've had not the World Championships, but normal racing, we have all 5 Zwift power-ups available. In the Zwift Racing League, we're only having 3. So today it's just the draft power-up, the aero power-up, and the feather power-up. And interestingly, Dave, talking about power-ups, because of the very nature of the finish, they'll get their last power-up opportunity through the finish line on the last lap, and then they'll have 1 power-up for the whole climb. So the use of that, and they'll be praying for a featherweight power-up as well, won't they? But the use of that power-up, considering there's only 1 opportunity, could be crucial today.
Absolutely. If you've got a feather in your pocket going into the final 300 meters, it's worth its weight in, I was going to say gold, but unobtainium, actually, even more valuable. So that feather gives you 10% less weight for 15 seconds. You will see the top riders know exactly when to hit that button. Then you've got that van that you see. That's all about draft. That's going to be 50% more draft. And then the aero power up, the helmet, that's if you think about your drag coefficient, that's going to lower it by 25%. So basically, in layman's terms, makes you 25% more aerodynamic, but only for 15 seconds. So, but you're right, Matt, there's a lot more power-ups that exist, but they're not in play here.
Yeah, they certainly are. The ones that are missing, of course, the invisibility and the burrito. Of course, the other one, the anvil, which has been newly introduced. Maybe we'll see that in one of the crit races later on. We're just looking at Freddie Ovet here. Again, a very, very talented Zwift rider indeed. Finished inside the top 10 in the inaugural World Championships. 8th place for Australia. He's got that the kind of setup that we're getting pretty familiar with now. He's got the double fans, fan to his left, fan to his right, headband on, kind of retro 80s feel in that Rafa jersey there. But I was really, really impressed by the way that Legion of Los Angeles have kind of, we know they're one of the bigger teams now. They've stepped up a level this year, signed Ovet, but they really galvanized last week. And that was a superb performance, wasn't it, by them in the team time trial?
Yeah, absolutely. Talk about leveling up. no doubt about it. And they clearly, Freddie was a great addition to this team. There's another rider, Sam Boardman, on this squad that certainly, if he's in that group, and it should be a fairly large group at the bottom of the KOM, but if Sam is there, he's certainly a rider that we'd be talking about. Nicky, though, we haven't talked about the Bolt Racing rider, Nicky Hug, too much yet. A brief mention earlier. He's another rider that I expect to be in that last group there, the ultimate selection that our winner is going to come out of. And almost surely that man in this case is going to be alone when he comes across the line. When you look at it, there's just not enough to work with here. These athletes all have the depth to get up and over the leg snapper enough times that this really now is going to be points hunting here for the next couple of laps that we have in Innsbruck, as we'll be. Again, you watch this group here. It's keeping the powder dry, as we've said in the past, for our top climbers. Just keeping that TSS, your Zwift efficiency, as low as you possibly can. And for that reason, Matt, you know, it's a great sign when the top riders are just tucked safely ensconced in the middle of the group right there.
Exactly. You can just see Freddie Ovett just floating around at the back. And it's interesting. I mean, Freddie Ovett, a very experienced Zwift rider. The pack at the moment, this bunch, just looking back at my stats here, there's around, we've got about 90 riders. A couple of riders have already been dropped. A good little shot of Dan Fleeman there. Bit of an outsider, former British hill climb champion. He's a rider that I know will like to ride well on this course. But no, if you just sit towards the back, in the middle of the pack, that's where you're going to get the best draft. So you're going to be putting out the least amount of power. But the risk is, if you stay there for too long, you may miss something going on at the front. That's the kind of compromise. As they head round, they swing right just by the roundabout there, and they head back into town again. They're on lap 2 of 3 circuits here. And there is the view of Muff. He, in our earlier stats, looking at that Zwift efficiency score, he was the most efficient rider. And if anybody's thinking, well, what does that actually mean? It's basically mean they're for the speed that they're riding at, they're actually using the least amount of power. So they're all moving at the same speed here in this peloton, but the most efficient rider is the rider that does it whilst generating the least amount of power, making them the most efficient. And it's a really new metric that was first introduced into Zwift racing at the UCI World Championships just before Christmas. As we look at Frederick Muff, again, such a solid rider. They have a formidable squad, don't they? Look at that, just cruising along at around 350 watts there, making it look very, very easy, Dave.
Yeah, this team has set a very high bar here for season 2, no doubt about it. And here we go. It looks like Vitas, to me, attacking right now. And it's going to be your early pick, Christopher McGlinchey, hitting out. All right, gentlemen, we are locked and loaded now. This is no longer a drill, that's for sure. You've got Christopher McGlinchey on the attack. The Northern Irishman has hit out.
Yeah, he's hit out, but look, he's backed off straight away. I'm not too sure what actually happened there with McGlinchey, because he's riding now at 150 watts. He's being absorbed. Maybe just wanted to give it a little bit of a nudge. Definitely a strange move, I would say there, Dave, from Chris McGlinchey. Again, a rider of vast experience, but just floated off the front. Maybe just wanted to move to the front of the bunch and generated a little bit too much power, because I think at the moment the riders are just trying to save as much energy as they can. But McGlinchey now back into the relative safety of the peloton, where it's going to get as much drag as possible, and looking pretty comfortable. Again, sitting at around 300 watts, enough to tear most people in half.
Yeah, such a high level. Was McGlinchey maybe setting up, seeing if anybody wanted to go with him on a breakaway, Matt? Do you think? Just possibly, putting an invitation out there? That's interesting.
Yeah,
he's such an experienced rider.
But sometimes you do see these tentative attacks, and you know, we do see attacks that go early in Zwift racing occasionally, but to do it on your own, that's a big ask. Maybe he thought he could eke out another couple of riders just to set the cat amongst the pigeons, maybe force a few teams to chase, but immediately he was isolated on his own. He was only in front for a couple of hundred meters, knocked it off, and is now back in the safety of the bunch. So 13 kilometers under the virtual wheels of these riders now, 24 kilometers to go. Another lap and a half of this downtown Innsbruck circuit, known as the Innsbruck Ring. Shot there of Gavin Dempster, the Scot riding for Saris and the Pros Closet, the team that sit third overall. Gavin Dempster, I think, Dave, another outsider, very good rider. He liked this circuit as well.
Reading my mind. That was exactly the next rider that I was going to mention. We saw his 12 roll by. I was thinking to myself that he is you know, if you look at, you know, put your McGlincheys, your Foldedgers, your Viasins into the 4-star favorites, He's a three-star favorite today, the Scottish rider. It's certainly, he's proven himself on somewhat similar courses. If you're going to say what type of rider does today suit, sort of a, what do you think, Matt? A Liège, Bastogne-Liège type of finish here, just unbelievably hard at the end. You got to get there in a super select group. We'll see how select it is. The next trip up the leg snapper will tell us something. But yeah, this is, it's got a very classic-y feel to it.
It certainly has. I think that's a really good comparison. It's a longer climb than we see in the Ardennes, but I think if you were to bring across a comparison from the road, yeah, I'd say kind of Liège, Bastogne-Liège, but maybe a kind of hilltop finish version of Liège, Bastogne-Liège. But that's right. You could just see now the riders wanting to get rid of their power-up, saving it for the climb. We're back on the leg snapper again, or just on the, we are on the leg, or the approach to the leg snapper. No, to the top of the leg snapper, should I say. They'll swing right just at the top.
How fast they are, man.
Yeah, I mean, they'll move
make it look
so quickly. They go up it so quickly there. 8.7 watts a kilo. That's Ryan Rudderham of Draft. He is the current Canadian Zwift champion. Just rolled over the top of that climb, easing off now. A few riders as they increase the speed, just getting into that aero tuck and actually having the ability to freewheel. As we look at the stats of Jacob Stenzel there. Again, no watts a kilo. Everybody here using this very short opportunity to get a little bit of a rest, as a few riders already starting to struggle just off the back there. Still a long way to go though, Dave, but of course the sprint coming up very shortly.
When we go and race tomorrow in the community leagues, Matt, you're going to see that leg snapper doing much more damage. This speaks to the quality of the racing that we're looking at. These guys are at such a high level that I'm sure you saw that in your career, Matt, as you advanced up the ranks. The difference between the top riders became smaller and smaller and smaller. Finding a way to get separation from the best in the world is hard to do, and that's why you look at this group. It is massive right now, and you know what, Matt, to be honest, the leg snapper is not enough to do damage to the giants of the road like these guys.
No, it certainly isn't. It's enough to hurt the legs, but I don't think it's enough to really. You might get one or two who are having a bad day get weeded out the back. We're just heading up to the sprint here. Of course, this is the second sprint. A lot of power-ups being used there. Evans on the front, or Chris Smart has just hit the front there. Evans moves through from the Restart Racing team. The Brit has opened up a nice little lead. Kanji Abeki from the Zwift Warrior Cycling team not too far behind. Looks like Evans has gone a little bit early. He's been overtaken now by Havard Glenknes of the Kalasai Racing team. The Norwegian looks like he does take the sprint there. Wonderful performance there. Williams in second place. We'll get confirmation, but another very hard-fought sprint. There's the results.
Well, yeah, and Tyler Williams there out of Santa Rosa, California, second on Legion. What's significant to me, I've always heard from directors, Matt, that when a sprinter is climbing well, he's sprinting well, and that when a climber is sprinting well, he's climbing well. Lionel Viasen is doing both very well right now. He's going to be incredibly dangerous today. As a matter of fact, how is he not a top pick for most folks out there? You've got to have him in your top three at least today. Viasen is at fuego here in Innsbruck.
He certainly is. Well, the net result of those first two sprints, Canyon Esports, well, 12 points in the bag for the Norwegian team. Finesse Rockets, superb riding by them. They're in second place. So early blood has been drawn by the very consistent Canyon Esports racing team. But when you look at their lineup, I think they'll be pretty disappointed so far with equal 8th in the standings. But Vidar Melt second in round one, but a relatively disappointing team time trial for them, but clearly looking to try and make amends today as we head back towards the finish. Another opportunity to get some more power-ups. That's why we're seeing riders get rid of it now, Dave, aren't we, before they get another one, before they head into the final lap of this circuit.
Use it or lose it, say. And now you're going to, Matt, there's no doubt for a lot of the top teams, this has been a draw up to this point. It's really going to come down to the top 5 riders out. There's so many points. It's heavily stacked towards that podium with 40 points for the winner, and you can see this points distribution relatively even throughout all of the squads here. So no one team has made a significant mark on the race at this point, which really is going to come down to for most of these teams, it's not your top climber, it's your top climber plus one. So taking a look at the vanguard here, we're not expecting to see a split until I think, Matt, I was anticipating it would be 25 guys to hit the bottom of the KOM after party before the fireworks began. It's going to be bigger than that. It's going to be a massive group that gets a crack at it here today. How much of a difference does it make, Matt, having a teammate that's all in to help you in the first half of that climb, closing down some gaps out there, setting some tempo? Can it make much of a difference for the top guys? Because you're going to have a super rider just to be able to be there at your side.
I think so. Yeah, we should get the graphics back for you very, very shortly, guys. That's why I've just lost that temporarily on the right-hand side. A couple of little gremlins in the system, but we will get the stats on the right-hand side back as soon as we can. But they're heading in just towards the back end of, lap two. Well, lap two is done and dusted. One more time through the finishing line. Then at the roundabout that they're approaching very shortly, rather than turning right, they will head straight on, head towards that famous underpass that many of you watching will know so well. And of course, those of you that are watching, if you'd like, I'd urge you to get on your Zwift companion app and give these riders a ride on as well, because every time we go picture in picture and have the stats of each rider, you'll see the total amount of power-ups, and that definitely does actually give them a little bit of an extra motivator. That another new feature of the ZRL is the power-ups. Okay, doesn't actually perfect their performance, but you know what, Dave? If I got a pocket full of power-ups and I was in triple figures, I'd be thinking, whoa, I've got some people are really kind of supporting me. They're getting behind me. I think it's a really nice touch, and I really love that element to the racing.
Well, when you're a superstar like our colleague Hannah Walker, she gets hundreds of ride-ons every time she's out there. I'm lucky to pull down a dozen while I'm knocking out my ride in the morning. But it's got to make you feel good. It's really, they talk about happiness watch or a happy racer and the psychology of a bike racer. Well, I would think that every time you see that you're getting a thumbs up, a ride-on out there versus your rider right next to you who isn't, that just means that you're loved more, right?
And Dave, look at that. Look at that, Dave. I think it's as a direct result of our little kind of suggestion there. Look at it's like it's snowing thumbs. It's snowing thumbs. They almost need like a ride-on plow. There's so many thumbs being dropped into the pockets of these riders right now. Thanks very much. Get involved in the comments on YouTube or on Facebook as well. We really want to know what the community thinks about this racing. And before we head into the final lap and before we've got the climb, I think, Dave, you commentate regularly. I mean, the Zwift community racing starts just a couple of hours after this race. The community leagues are enormous. I mean, we're in a great place, aren't we, in terms of the amount of people, not just riding on the platform, but getting involved in races. And I think the kind of the democratic nature of this new structure means that teams are going to come down and move up. It's wonderful, isn't it?
It really is, Matt. We've seen, well, for example, the Kirkmeyer team, they had a fantastic ride last week. So the community teams will be really inspired by that. There's, nearly 10,000 folks that will race tomorrow. A's, B's, C's, and D's. There's racing for everyone. I see really active online communities for people finding teams. You'll see whether it's Cryogen or Zizon, there are teams that are welcoming for everyone. Matt, I want to talk about what's ahead of these guys. There's nothing quite, well, actually, there is Ventop and Alpe d'Huez, but this will be the most significant climb that we have seen and may seen in a long time. Charlie Eisendorf brought in the KOM after party. That is a 5.5% average grade over 7.4 kilometers. That's 15 minutes for these guys. As a matter of fact, though, I'm going to say it's probably going to be more like 14 minutes, the tempo that they're going to be racing at, Matt, because this will be the first time that these riders have a chance to be in a group of peers. Like, when are you ever going to get the climb on the KOM after party with 10 guys like our front group will be today? This is the next level group to ride with. So you're going to see, well, it's a 20-minute power test for some, but for these guys, they won't get anywhere near 20 minutes on this climb. But they're going to go deeper than they've gone before, I'd have to say. And it really is going to come down to, Matt, the point structure of this league. You can see when we're scoring the bonus points, we don't look at individual riders. We look at teams, because really, at the end of the day, that's how we keep score here. And it's one of the real beautiful things about the Zwift Racing League, Matt, is that this means every rider matters.
It certainly does. It's not just the riders in the top 10, although they, of course, score more points. It's battling it out for the minor place as well. The more riders you can get in the first half of the field, the better. It is all about the team. Of course, It's essentially a scratch race first across the line, but it's a points race as well. It's the team that accumulates the most points on the finish line and out at those intermediate sprints. So there really is a tactic to this, and it isn't just about the glory of trying to finish on the podium. It's about the glory of knitting together as a unit and encouraging every single rider to give their all to make sure they score points again. But looking at this field at the moment, they're starting to head again. These laps are ticking by very, very quickly, Dave. It won't be long before we take on the final ascent of the leg snapper. Just the shape of the bunch starting to change. It was all across the road a little bit. It's now starting to narrow up, which is an indicator of the speed that they're travelling at. Again, 47 k's an hour they're moving at the moment, between 47 and 48 k's an hour on the approach to the leg snapper. They're just going through Innsbruck town centre. It won't be too far before we go past actually where we had our Zwift house back in Innsbruck in real life. But no, leg snapper, final time up. The group, just to give you a bit of indication, the group is around 84 riders strong, Dave.
Well, I just saw Matteo Cigala, the Irish-Italian there in the middle of the group. He's one of the riders on Christopher McGlinchey's team. They're definitely trying to get some positioning now. I can't imagine a course that has a wider spectrum of terrain, right? When you are in Innsbruck, it is dishpan flat. Outside of the leg snapper, it's entirely flat. And then you have this explosive climb for the finale. It's really, it shows you, though, the depth, again, that these riders have. And the sharp end of the bike race, the finale here, it's going to be all about the climbers. But you can see that everybody has a talent. Their spectrum is wide enough to be able to race at 48 to 50k per hour here. So, all right, you feel like we're starting to wind things up a little bit at the front. A lot of people using their power-ups right now. Look at that, a flurry of power-ups.
It's
between the ride-ons and the power-ups. We got a lot going on in the air.
There's a lot of graphics. That's drawing a lot of kind of graphics capacity from the Zwift server. There's so many power-ups being used on this climb. This is correct. Exactly. Well, it's Patrick Brady of Ensured Paddle by Pedal Power who's just moved up the front. Pat Brady opens up a little bit of a gap, 8.2 watts a kilo. The man in white rounds the corner, opens a gap of just a few bike lengths. Thomas Thrall not too far behind his teammate as well. So consistent riding there by the Ensured Power by Pedal Power team. They currently sit 7th overall ranking. And there it is again, that aero tuck, giving the opportunity to have a little bit of recovery, because believe you me, from this point onwards, there's going to be no opportunity to freewheel again, because it's either flat or uphill. And it is a very, very challenging finale. We're just going to head back through. We have the sprint still to come. Then they'll swing right back through the finish line and then head up that long drag. And it's worth saying, actually, Dave, isn't it? Although the climb itself is only measured at 7.1 k's, the drag from the roundabout to the underpass, then left again, there's another 1,500 meters of climbing that you can really bolt on to the climb itself. There's no easy approach, is there?
Absolutely. Very well put. And this is quite a way to lead yourself into that climb, because this is going to be an all-out. Look at that Foldagger up there. Anders Foldagger, the Danish rider on PO Auto Ceramic Speed. So, okay, this is much more than just a sprint. This is a double dip that we're taking right now, because this is going to launch you into the finale of the bike race right here, right now. This one is on. It's full gas at the front. Remembering, it's a sprint into the KOM. Absolutely brutal out here.
It is indeed, and the power-ups are starting to be dropped now. It's Abeki again. He's been very, very active in the sprints. The Japanese rider, Hayden Warner's there from Team Turbo. Matt Brook, the British rider from Bolt Race Team. And again, all the power-ups have been dropped. The one they want is the aero, and who's moving into the front? It's Warner and Abeki and Rijkaard. Rijkaard is in at the front now, of course, for the Kirkhead team. Looks like Rijkaard takes that. So it is the German Ingo Rijkaard who takes the points there, ahead of Glenders of the Callas e-racing team. Lindequist is second for team Swedish Zwifters. And then we have Hayden Warner of Team Turbo and Vidor Mel, the Norwegian Zwift champion, in 5th place, scoring some more points for Callas. They have scored very, very well indeed. And Freddie Obet moves to the front. A brief opportunity now just to take a breath, Dave, because this is where the racing really starts to commence. But look at that, 17 points for Callas. That's not a bad few points in the bank as we head towards the climb at all. Kirkmeyer in second with 8, Finesse Rockets with 5, equal with Canyon Esports. Then we have Legion with 4, Zwift team, Swedish Zwifters with 3 points. So, yeah, some good points in the bag for the Norwegian team there, Dave.
Yeah, and boy, I tell you what, go ahead and turn your attention to the Tête de la Course on the front of the bike race, because this has gone full gas now. You can see multiple splits. There's McGlinchey now. This time it's for real. No doubt about it, as the Northern Irishman is going to start scraping the bottom of the barrel. So this has got to be a setup move right now. They're going to start coming up and over the top. The bike race really does move into a whole new phase. This is the finale here. Even though it says 11.5K, you get the feeling we've moved into the final. All right, so what is going to be happening behind now? Boy, it is critical. We talked about trying to keep your TSS or your efficiency low. This is now where you start relying upon your animal instinct out here. As an esports racer, is that sometimes you just have a feel that that's the wheel to be on. You need to go when they go. This is it. It's going to be a Donnybrook in Innsbruck here today.
It certainly is, Dave. 11.1 Ks to go, and we have a little breakaway. They only have a small lead. It's just nudging 3 seconds now. It's Elliot Holtam of the KISS Racing team. He's the rider on the front at the moment, the Canadian in that familiar blue kit. There are his stats. You can tell, 6.4 watts a kilo. He's trying to keep this clear. Ollie Jones, the very experienced former Zwift Academy finalist from Canyon Esports, is in the mix as well. And then Chris McGlinchey, of that little move early on. I think he tried something similar, Dave, on this occasion. He's drawn 2 riders with him, and look at this, the gap is now going up. Very, very interesting indeed. I certainly didn't expect a breakaway to go clear, with the climb actually still a fair way out, because they're still on the streets of Innsbruck. They've just gone across the world's finishing line now, swinging left here. So if they do glance to the left-hand side, they will see the draft house, the Zwift house from the IRL. But yeah, interesting move, Dave.
Yeah, it really is. Now, how well do these guys work together here? How much of a buffer can they build up? Now, McGlinchey has had success. He should know how to race this course, Matt. We were talking about that before the race, that he was second on this course about 6 months ago. So he has already cracked the code out here. Ollie Jones, another rider with tremendous experience. And I don't know, this is an interesting move here. Are they setting the table for something to come right behind them? Because we do have a long way to go as we go in picture here with Ollie Jones down in Australia.
Well, this is really, really interesting. Yeah, I mean, they've opened up. The gap is slowly going out. It's 4.5 seconds. But this, of course, is forcing other teams to chase. But you'd think, because they're not on the climb yet, there is a distinct unwillingness to maybe chase at this early stage. Therefore, that provides a little bit of an opening for a breakaway to go clear. It's still only a slender lead, but Holtam, Jones and McGlinchey now have 4.5 seconds over Corey Williams. It appears that Corey Williams might be trying to get across the gap, but is now being reabsorbed by the peloton. So Ollie Jones there, the former Zwift Academy winner, out in front with McGlinchey and with Elliot Holtam. This is a good little move. 5 seconds is their lead, 9.4 to go, about 2 Ks to go before they hit the foot of the climb proper here, Dave.
Corey Williams doing work for one of his teammates. I would imagine, I would think it would be Freddie Ovett, a fantastic addition to that squad. It looks like McGlinchey's gone out on his own. That's going to be the rider in the red jersey here, no longer really working efficiently with the other guys in the break. Oh, they're going to come right back up to him. I wonder what's going through their mind right now. This is a lot of work to have a 5-second buffer at the bottom of the climb.
It certainly is. I mean, it's not a big lead, and you know when the road goes up, when everybody else starts to kind of jostle for position up, that little drag before the underpass, which they've yet to reach just yet, that could be when they just get reabsorbed without really, it's just the general movement of the peloton and the riders fighting for position without any concerted chase. Just the natural speed of the bunch could actually eat into their lead, but they've pulled another second out, 6.5 seconds. This is very interesting, but the big question, Dave, are they investing too much now? Riders of the caliber of Jones and McGlinchey, who could be winners of this race, have they gone too early, or was this always part of the plan? Fascinating stuff, this.
In order to win, you have to risk losing. At this level, you've got to take some risks. If McGlinchey, if that's what's happening here, I take my cap off to him, because this is a bold, bold play for the win. You can see, again, in that group, there are some incredibly strong riders who are still able to lay back right now. But the positioning is going to be critical in the next K. You get the feeling that PO Auto Ceramic Speed is going to start trying to move Anders up there towards the front, because there will be a split coming up, I'm going to say, in the next 2K. Boy, look at that Legion rider moving through. Is that going to I'm wondering, is that Freddie Ovitt right now as he's attacking out of, well, or moving up to the front, just setting even higher pace. It looks like they're going to hit the reset button here, Matt, and we're going to bring this back. That's Corey Williams. Good work out there today, Corey. So Corey running is a fantastic teammate. If you want to see the difference, now, I doubt Corey's in the top 10 when this is done and dusted, but he helped shut that break down. He'll get a pat on the back.
Yeah, I think he certainly did. And we know Corey is not. Yeah, he's done and dusted. I mean, he's almost got his reversing lights on there. But again, use that kind of sliding space. You can just see, we're just seeing him just at the back of that bunch. He's accelerated again. He gave himself that bit of a micro break. But that was teamwork at play there. Really, really fine example of sacrificing a rider just to bring that gap down. Because McGlinchey and Jones, so dangerous to let clear.
Yeah, people wonder sometimes, how is this a team sport again? Well, that's exactly how. They sacrificed a rider. Think about a pawn, or, well, not even a pawn. That's like a bishop or a knight moving around on the chessboard, making a significant play there. That's way beyond pawn level, that's for sure. So we now will, that chapter ends. This really begins the climbing sector here. So these next couple of attacks, and it's not going to be the first attack that wins. This is Jimmy Kershaw that we're looking at right now. But it's going to be the counter of the counter, really, that sets up what will be this selection that we see. I'm anticipating at 2K to go, it's 2 or 3 riders, Matt, that we've got in what we would call the vanguard or the front group. Right here, right now, it's all on the line. 40 points for first, 35 for second. So you can see there's a big difference if you can find the very top of the table for your team here. But again, no one rider is going to win it for their team. It's going to take 2, maybe 3 riders getting inside of the top 20 to get it done today. I see Jordan Shane's name. There's a rider to watch for. Rider out of Canada, British Columbia, Canada, as we go in picture with Jordan. I think Kennewa is where Jordan calls home, outside of Vancouver.
Jordan Shane there looking good, isn't he? Looking relatively composed considering he's nearly knocking out just under 400 watts. I mean, he's got 41 rides on. I think he almost deserves a few more than you can just see his head tilted to the left-hand side, clearly looking at his metrics, looking at where he is within that group. Dan Fleeman now moved to the front, knocking out 4.8 watts a kilo. Vuyasan, unsurprisingly, not too far away. Ryan Larson, the former US Zwift champion, also up there for Saris and the pros closet. Dempster, his Scottish teammate, not too far behind. And the tempo, this is one of the steepest parts of the climb at the moment. They've been through that long drag, the run up. They're now on the ascent itself. There's a series of switchbacks here. The road just gently meanders left and right. Then it kind of flattens out. There are a series of plateaus on this climb, aren't they, David? It's not straightforward. The climb actually ebbs and flows quite a lot all the way to the line.
Yeah, it is definitely for a true climber, someone who loves doing this. That's going to be the Zwift Everesting champion, Michael Knudsen, a fantastic rider. One of the good stories coming out of this season already, and he is absolutely a massive engine. So, yeah, there you go. They're going to start punching tickets at the back like an evil conductor right now as multiple riders are going to say goodbye to that group. You start wondering, where is that line where so the top riders that get points, these guys are all still in the points if you're in this front group right now. So, all right, the accelerator's gone down on the floorboard. You can see the depth of this group, but as it starts to string out, Matt, the splits are going to start to happen. So we kind of just went through the first hard phase, but brace yourselves, gentlemen. There's another one coming. It's body blow after body blow. As you said, Matt, it's not the steady climb out here. And you're going to see riders coming off pretty consistently here in the next minute.
Yeah, you just saw a couple of riders using the draft power up just to use in desperation to try on this slightly flatter section. They went up just like a kilometre ago, but they are being dropped, and the group is slowly but surely whittling down. Riders are dropping off like flies at the moment. There's only around, we had 80 riders together at the bottom. It's now down to around 50. A few riders still within a few seconds as we look at the lineup of Saris and at the pros closet. Ryan Larson, Gavin Dempster, Dan Fleeman with a baseball cap there, one of our coaches, of course, for the Zwift Academy. But he's not only a great coach, he's a very fine Zwift rider indeed. Has taken some big wins time, including in Richmond last year. Matt Brandt and David Talbot. And they've got several of their riders on there, the head of affairs. They have to be one of the teams that could score big today, Dave.
Yeah, I'm glad we're showing them here because you can see that they are positioned really well, remembering that this is a team-scored sport. So they've got two riders sitting up right there, right in the sweet spot right now. Great job by Saris the Pros Closet. As a matter of fact, they and Canyon are having a fantastic ride. Let's take some more inventory. Who have we got up here? So Lano Vyasa, no surprise there. This man can make 6.1 watts per kilo for a 20-minute test. It's not going to be 20 minutes, but that test is very relevant here. We're looking at David Talbot. You can see nobody is positioned better than Talbot right now. He's getting as much of a draft as you possibly can as they roll up, Matt, on pretty close to 5K of this climb. This climb is not or category. It's not next level. It is just a grind, and it's certainly going to find out a worthy winner for us here.
It certainly is. Just look at the shape here, Dave. It's like one long piece of kind of silly putty. It's like you're grabbing it, taking a chunk at the end and just stretching it, and then eventually it snaps. You've got this nucleus of riders just at the head of affairs. Somebody's just punted off the front there. That's another rider from Kirkmare. Boy, they are impressing me this season, are the Kirkmare squad. Johannes Reichnauer of Germany has moved just off the front, but he has been reabsorbed. But a lot of riders now, as we see the percentage graded, 8% on the top right-hand side. That is the grade that they're on now. It does ease in just a few moments' time, but with almost every single pedal stroke on this Innsbruck climb, Dave, the riders being dropped at the relentless pace. Look at this. Everybody here holding in this front group between 5.5 and 6.5 watts per kilo.
Norden, Muff, Ollie Jones. Okay. I mean, these are the names that you expect to see. I'm looking for any kind of outlier right now up here near the front of this group. In real life, Matt, there's a little something you can take from hearing the guys suffering right next to you, all the heavy breathing. You don't get that right now. All you can hear is yourself, as this is a massive group. All things considered, at this point, my mind is blown that we've got this many riders still in contention. Vandenbroek up to the front. Reichenauer, he's been driving this thing for the last couple of K up here. McGoldrick, also very strong today, but Lano Vyasa right there. He's not going to play his cards too early. There's definitely going to be an attack coming from Vyasa. There's no doubt. You don't have to read the tea leaves to see that.
You don't at all, but there's an attack now from one of the Zwift warriors, Takato Aikida of Japan, 8.6 watts a kilo. That's just taking him to the front there, the rider using a golf visor. Very, very interesting for the headgear. Here is Aikida just on the front here, putting out 8 watts a kilo. This is another steep part of the climb. This is a really, really long section. There are a couple of little flat sections in between these steep parts, but the lighter riders now really trying to use the road and the elevation to their advantage. This road just keeps rising up and up and up, and the field is stretching even more. There's a few seconds now. The top 20 now, Dave, are spread over 5 seconds. The elastic starting to snap, as you can see by the riders' distance down the road here. Big gap starting to open. We are starting to see the field really start to break up on this line with 3.8 kilometers still to go.
Okay, right here, right now, this is an incredible ride by Aikida, as he's in the perfect spot to be for this moment, as they're going inside of 3.7K on this climb. All right, here comes Freddie Ovett. It looks like Fleeman as well. That was a good call. One of the best British climbers of his generation, and a man who's proved it already here in esports. There's no doubt that he's a podium contender today. Etienne Van Empel, another rider now sitting up in our top 5. They're making the selection. Here we go. The big grind has begun. It's going to take a nuclear-powered effort. Look at this ride today. Saris the Pros Closet rising up to the occasion. And that might
really
be the ultimate selection, Matt.
And it's really interesting.
To join.
See, this group has now been joined. There's Lionel Vyasa, Dan Fleeman used their featherweight power-ups just to make sure they could get across that move. Remember, no more opportunities to use the power-ups. Still 3.5 Ks to go. Still some nasty gradients to fight against as we look at Freddie Ovett. Looks like Freddie Ovett has moved into the front here. He's opened up a second gap. Ovett has gone very, very early indeed, and I think Lionel Vyasa is trying to get across the gap there with Michael Newton of PO Auto Ceramic Speed. Some real kind of body blows being taken now on this climb. Again, it crests again. There's a little chicane, and then the road starts to rise again. But Freddie Ovett holding 6 watts a kilo. That's some big power. And the field, Dave, it is really starting to explode now.
This is it. All right. The biggest off-season signing, I would say, would have to be Freddie Ovitt coming over to Legion. And you can see the work that was done at the bottom of the climb by his teammate Corey is certainly paying off. Again, though, more riders coming back up into the race. This is incredible to see. And, Matt, you were talking about how it flattens out. Look at the grade now. It's down to 1%. So, basically, they've been on a false flat here for a little bit. This is going to be where only the strong survive. When you go to the front, that's going to be Michael Knudsen. Again, Michael's been an incredible story, a man who really came into 2021 with a full head of storm. And let's see what we've got now. A little bit of a change going on the front here as we go in picture with another time with Jimmy Kershaw here.
Yeah, Jimmy Kershaw just in-game has got that Yorkshire cap on, maybe a bit of a throwback from the Harrogate World Championships. Lionel Vujasin has moved on to the front. Recknauer now, he used his power up. Recknauer is now moving clear. Johannes Recknauer, the German from the Kirkmare E-Racing team, the revelation for me of this season so far. Remember, we're only on race number 3. It seems like we've been racing for a lot longer. But Dave, crucially, this group now is only 19 riders strong. There's 19 riders spread over 3 seconds. Then we have a 10-second gap to Lionel Mordaunt of the World Elite Zwifters. Then 15 seconds to the next group on the road. Given the speed they're riding at now, Dave, I cannot see the winner coming from anybody else but this group out in front.
Johannes Recknauer has certainly made his racing in his backyard here. Let's see the other riders, Matt, that are able to be with the front group, and it still is a front group. I'm looking for Lionel Vujasin sitting there comfortably. Michael Knudsen, Freddie Ovitt. These are all the names that you expected. Jimmy Kershaw. Got to give McGoldrick credit. Etienne Van Empel's in our top 10 that we look at now. But Ikeda is certainly punching above his weight on this climb. This will go down as really a breakthrough moment for the Japanese squad, the Warriors from Zwift Warrior Cycling.
Indeed, and Ikeda not just riding well, Dave, in terms of power, but riding with intelligence as well, because the road kicked up to 12% there, using that power to weight ratio, using that ability to produce power, but with a light weight. That's where the pure climbers come into their own. It's riding smart as well, using the road when the kind of gradient pitches up to your advantage. The heavier riders will go on the lesser gradients, the lighter riders on the steep, but it's whittling down even further now. So we have Ollie Jones is just off the back of this group. He's struggling now at 4.5 seconds. Dan Fleeman has also been detached from this group. But there's another little bit of a false flat which could open the door for riders to get back on before we head on to the last part of the climb. 1,900 meters to go. Who is going to take it? Vujasin, Ovitt is there, Ikeda. Oh, this is amazing.
The one name to write down in pen and underline it, the man who's put himself in position to win this race is Anders Foldager. Perfectly ridden up to this point. He's going to launch a rocket here in the next couple of minutes. I don't know. It looks to me like Vujasin is going to have to, there's a new movie coming out here in the States, Godzilla versus King Kong. I think that's what we're going to have on this climb now. As they're going to come out of this group, there's going to be an explosion that'll be heard around the world of esports. The toughest climb that we have had in the history of the ZRL, and it has all come down to this. Credit where it is due. Coming out of the woodwork today is going to be the Japanese rider Ikeda here riding on the front, but the Australian Freddie Ovitt is ready to lock horns. The Belgian Lionel Vujasin, they're in the purple, starting to move up. It is now time to enter the launch code and see if it is going to be improved. We are in with Takato Ikeda here. So this man has had an exceptional, a breakthrough ride out of Japan here today. That's going to be, again, Foldager has got his teammate there. You do look around and take some inventory. What team has more than one rider, Matt? Not many. And that's going to be the team that wins the race here today, not just based on the individual performance.
Indeed, well, there's a bit of an attack here from O'Brien, Mark O'Brien of Team Aero, a team that, are languishing. They're the last team overall at the moment. That's a little bit disappointing, but the Aussie has tried to go clear now. We're just going under the Flamme Rouge. 1 kilometre to go on this week number 3 of the season 2 of the Zwift Racing League. There's still a little bit of climbing to go, but all of the steepest part of this climb are now done and dusted. So crucial that any of the pure climbers in this group try and use the gradients to their advantage. But the road drops a little bit, and then it's around a 2 or 3% drag all the way to the line through the avenue of trees. It is Recknauer who's been very, very aggressive all day so far, who now goes clear, and he's opened up a little bit of a gap.
Johannes Recknauer has lit the fuse. We're going to find out who really is the bomb. Can Michael Knudsen do it? That is the rider sitting at second. Lionel Viasen is now moving up. I'm going to be looking for Follinger to make a move here. At this point, they go all in. All the chips pushed into the middle of the table as they're rapidly going to be coming up on 500 meters to go. This is your OSS situation. Only the strong survive. Michael Knudsen of PO Auto Ceramic Speed has got in the front, and look at this. Latching onto his wheel is going to be Lionel Viasen. Back to you, Matt.
Indeed, with Viasen on the wheel of Knudsen, who's still out of the saddle. They can see the finish line beckoning. It is 300 meters to go, and the one rider saved to power up until the last. He now starts to go clear. Looks like it is Ikeda. Ikeda is clear. This could be an absolutely sensational win, but it is 171 meters to go. But just coming up on the outside, looks like Ovet. Ovet takes the lead. Ovet with a perfectly timed sprint. 12 watts a kilo, crosses the line, takes the win ahead of Lionel Viasen. Takato Ikeda in third, but Obed, he wins in the virtual Tour de France. He's up there in the World Championships. He takes his first win, and a big, big win for the Legion of Los Angeles here on round 3 of the Zwift Racing League.
That is what I'm talking about. What a race. I got to say, I think PO Auto Ceramic Speed did it, Matt. I see them with a 4th and a 6th. We'll see if that's enough points for them to make it 3 running here on the top of the table. They're already working on calculating those points. That was an absolutely beautiful race to watch out here as we take a look at Freddie Ovet getting it done. We talked about what a big signing that was for the Legion of LA team, and he has already delivered. Lionel gets there for second. Lionel Viasen there. The Belgian rider, Takato Ikeda for third. There's your top 10, Matt.
Absolutely superb stuff. What a win by Ovet. And crucially as well, Dave, he held on to that power up and used it on that. He's a heavier rider, a powerful rider, in combination with a power up and understanding Zwift racing so well. That wasn't just a powerful win, it was a smart win as well. But Ovet, Viasen, Ikeda are your podium. Great ride by Michael Knudsen of PO Auto Ceramic Speed in 4th place. They actually got 11th place on the day as well. We're just going to wait for the calculation. There are the finish line points. Of course, Ovet with 40, and then Viasen with 35. Ikeda, Knudsen, Recknauer, what a ride by him, a standout performance. It's so great to see riders that we're not used to talking about coming to the fore at this level. It really is. Johan Noren in 6th, Voldega there in 7th, Huel Davis in 8th, the Welshman, Mark O'Brien in 9th, and Etienne Van Empel of the Dutch racing team rounding out your top 10. But of course, there's some number crunching to be done, Dave, but as you said, I think without confirming it, that there was a real consistency yet again by PO Auto Ceramic Speed there, who had 3 riders in the top 11.
Yeah, that's the name of the game. Got to give credit to the Zwift Warrior cycling team as well. Way to step up, gentlemen, as Takato Ikeda has another noteworthy ride here. Yeah, you'd have to say Recknauer, Ikeda, they were the men of the match, weren't they? They certainly drove through the middle part of that climb and helped set the table. But again, there's the gameplay element of esports, and on Zwift, having that feather, that's worth its weight in gold. That's not the best analogy, is it? Because I don't want a heavy gold feather, but I do
Dave,
want that feather.
Just talk us through, it was an aero power-up. Just talk us through the last few 100 meters here, mate.
Yeah, nothing like a sprint uphill after what you've just been through for the last 7K. That's what you call scraping the bottom of barrel. This is the moment where Lionel Viasen just couldn't hold the wheel of Freddie Ovet. It becomes clear that the Australian is going to win. Lionel does himself proud, though, with a strong second place, and it shows you how timing was critical there. And again, Ikeda doing a great job holding on for third. That was a fantastic bike race. And there you go.
There we go, Dave. You were right. Our rudimentary mathematics did serve us very well there. We were right. PO Auto Ceramic Speed take a win again. 79 points. Canyon in second, Legion of Los Angeles in third. Another solid performance by them. Dutch Racing fourth, equal with Saris and Kirkmare. Seventh, Zwift Warriors. Eighth, equal with Team Callas with Team Swedish Zwifters. And 10th, Uno X Pro Cycling Team. Let's have a look at the next batch of point scoring teams in just a few seconds time. But no, 3 out of 3 for PO Auto Ceramic Speed. They are the team of the moment. What a start to the ZRL season 3 for that squad. So consistent.
A turning point race here, because now I think we've established who the real heavy hitters are in season 2. This is for Kirkmeyer. This backed up the ride that they had last week in the team time trial. Back to you, Matt, as we see that the World Elite Swifters there move in at 11th.
Indeed, and Bolt in 12th, Aero 13th. So a little bit of a better performance this week for them. Ensured powered by Pedal Power in 14th. Then we have No Pins Racing Team, Turbo, Finesse, Vitus. Again, not the greatest of rides by them. I'm sure they'll make amends soon. And then a Restart Racing rounding out the top 20, KISS Racing Team. So let's have a little look at the series results. So there you are, 3 from 3. What do you say? 60 points maximum scoring. They are the team who has set the bar very, very high indeed. Canyon Esports currently now second. Dutch Racing, well, they've moved up to third. Saris and the Pros Closet are in fourth. Well, equal third with Dutch Racing. Legion of Los Angeles fifth. Then we have Kirkmare, Zwift Warriors, Callas Esports, World Elite Swifters, and Insured, powered by Pedal Power, rounding out the top 10. So thanks very much indeed, Dave. Kick back, mate. It's been great commentating with you as ever. We'll be obviously seeing you again tomorrow for the community racing. But for now, kick back, grab a tinny and watch the women's race as we're joined again by Hannah Walker.
Sensational, and great to see Freddie Ovett go up there.
Now, it was a great run, a really, really interesting race. And we kind of knew, or we thought that